Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Come on in here and sit down with me. Joining me today as we study the Bible. We're looking at Psalm 71. This is the second half of Psalm 71. Last week we began the first half, and we're entitling this psalm, The Old Man's Prayer. It's a perfectly wonderful prayer. It's first person all the way through. We are like the little fly in the booth as we listen to David pray, and he's praying to the Lord. Get a front row seat to hear him pray. How's he praying? Well, we're finding out here in Psalm 71. This is a prayer that apparently is prayed when David's an old man. Now, I say David, this is an orphanic psalm, but there are so many Davidic themes in this particular psalm that it's just easy to see David praying this. Now, last week we ended with verse 12. O God, be not far from me. O my God, make haste for my help. Of course, if you're an old person, you can hear yourself praying that very same thing, because once strength begins to fade, there's only one place to go for help, and that is to the Lord. And so I think verse 12 kind of acts like a divider between the two portions of this psalm. There are other things that sort of argue for that as well, structures in the second half, but this is a nice refrain for the psalm. It's the chorus in a sense. You know, O God, be not far from me. O my God, make haste for my help. Or perhaps we could call it the bridge between part 1 and part 2. And then today we're going to come to verses 13, 14, and 15, and let me read those. Let them be confounded and consumed that are adversaries to my soul. Let them be covered with reproach and dishonor that seek my hurt. But I will hope continually, and will yet praise thee more and more. My mouth shall show forth thy righteousness and thy salvation all the day, for I know not the number thereof. Now we come to verses 13 through 15, and there's a whole lot here that's very similar. I'm sure that as I read that, this sounds familiar to you as you think about the first half of the psalm, because it's kind of like verses 4 and 5 and verse 6. So in 4 and 5, we're introduced to the wicked man, the unrighteous man, who's seeking his soul. And again, we have here in 13, let them be confounded and consumed that are adversaries to my soul. So very much the same language. Let them be covered with reproach and dishonor that seek my hurt. But I will hope continually and yet praise thee more and more. As I said last week when we were studying verses 4 and 5, the contrast is wonderful and it is instructive. You know, it's easy to focus on what the bad guy is doing. And the bad guy in this case could be just simply the adversary to our soul, the devil, or perhaps all of the agents that he employs in the fight against our soul. Our corruption and other sinners and things that tempt us, our bosom sin that he uses as a wrench, on us. We have the focus on the wicked man, but then it quickly shifts to his hope in verses 4 and 5, and here again in verses 13 and 14. But, he says, there's our adversative, but now I'm changing focus. I will hope continually. So whatever the wicked man's doing, and he's doing stuff, he's an adversary to my soul, and he wants to seek my hurt. All that's true of them, but I will hope continually and yet praise you more and more. Why is he going to praise the Lord more and more? Because that's where his focus needs to be. And he knows that. He knows that's where his strength is. That's where his hope is. That's where his health is in the Lord. My mouth shall show forth thy righteousness. So we continue the idea of praise, similar to what we had in verse 6. And thy salvation all the day, for I know not the number thereof. So the numbers thereof could be the days of his life. He doesn't know how long he has to live, so he's just resolving himself to praise the Lord. Okay, well, I hope you'll join me again tomorrow, and we're going to look at verses 16 and 17 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.